Hi and welcome. This is a video to help my JSCP students with their priority learning units. So step one is to come into my website, which you know at this stage, Mr. MacGarrigan, mac.weebly.com. You can Google that too and it'll come up. And then you come down here and you'll see if your JSCP videos 1 and 2 with the answers to the below photographs as such explained. Next thing to note is this differentiated CSP handout. Okay, so I'm going to put up a third video here and it'll be called Priority Learning Units, so PLUs. And they go through the PLUs in this handout as well, which I've created for you since the start of the year. Okay, I'm going to go on then to another piece of software just to show you what I'm talking about. So the differentiated CSP handout, okay, which I showed you from my website. This is here when you open it up. And what we need to understand, what are the priority learning units? Well, we're going to go through them, but just to note at the start here, I've said you can present your work with audio, with posters, with visual displays. So I'm very open to different ways of you producing your evidence that you're learning and that you're making an effort. Yeah, which is number one. So I have lots of graphic organized at the handout in class, and we're also giving out handouts to level 2. But on top of that, we'll just go through a few bits here. So for CSP, JCSP, so the priority learning units then for my JCSP students are to understand, first of all, the difference between a right and responsibility. Okay. Responsibility, for example, could be to pick up litter. A right could be you have a right to education. Yeah. So there's a few elements here, activities that you can write or type out, or again, audio, whatever way you prefer. You create a poster highlighting human rights. Have at least one person on the poster with a speech bubble saying something positive about human rights. So that's one of the first things I get you to do, is to do a poster highlighting something like homelessness or any issue that you think is a big issue in Ireland. Yeah. Know the difference between a need and a want. Again, need is food. Want might be, for example, the latest fashion item. Yeah. Do a college photo collage of people that inspire you and give one comment from each. So it could be your parents, a few students, and you could record them. And you could say why you think they inspire you. In other words, why do they make you want to do things in a better way or to achieve things. Research people online who have changed the world in a positive way. So to do a little write-up, or again, it could be audio, again, open to different ideas. But to look up and research a few people that you think have changed the world in a positive way, yeah, and to write about them and to do a picture of them, maybe get a photo of them. Yeah, moving on. So human rights instruments. This is more of the learning units that JCSP need to learn. So you research and actions associated with that. So research actions that others have done to protect other people or the environment. Make a storyboard or infographic showing what action you'd like to take to protect people and the environment. So first of all, read up anything online. Use google.scholar.com for educational resources. Wikipedia is another resource. And just read about people who have done good things for the environment. You also get loads of information on greenparty.ie for Irish examples. And then you make a story with maybe some speech bubbles. And reflect on what you've done in class for the strand and create an audio presentation of what you've learned then at the end. And also then it's a way of reflecting. So you can do an audio just reflecting what did I learn about this first strand 1, what did I learn about rights responsibilities, what did I learn about human rights instruments, yeah, and just to do up a reflection on that, whatever format you find easiest. Okay, moving on to strand 2 then, we've got global citizenship. So within this, what I want you to do is to look up an ecosystem what is that? So again, use googlescholar.com and then display pictures of different types of ecosystems around the world. You might see the coral reef in Australia is a big ecosystem where fish and coral have to work in unison to help marine life, but also to create oxygen in the oceans as well. Okay, but you'll see different things on ecologies and different nature reserves around Ireland where everything works together and everything's connected to everything else. So you can draw a poster on highlighting how your family leaves an ecological footprint. That means what damage basically do we do as individuals or families to the environment. Yeah. For example, using fossil fuels. For example, an example of fossil fuels might be using too much diesel or too much petrol, and we could be cycling. Throwing away rubbish when we could be using recyclable Tupperware. There's a few examples for you. So part C I'm looking at here now. What can we as humans do to protect the world's environment so that it stays as a nice place to live? As a nice place to live for future generations. Okay, so what can we do to protect the world's environment? We can get involved with different organizations that are actively trying to go more green and trying to protect the environment. Eco warriors or environmental groups or Green Party groups. So we can do things at home then as well, recycling, using, reusing things, reducing what we use, reducing food waste, having a compost heap outside our gardens, taking rainwater from the roof and using that to water our plants. Things like that all help. So do actions this week of recycling your rubbish and show proof of you of cycling a walk. So get a picture of you maybe recycling rubbish into the correct bins and make maybe a form of presentation with that. You can also cycle or walk depending on your parents' permission. And just to say you did that would be enough. It'd be difficult to get a photograph while you're cycling, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. So, okay, so get someone to get a video of you and speak in the video, explain what you did and why you did it to help the environment, yeah, to help the world be more sustainable. Sustainable means that it'll last forever. That's not just going to last for the next 10 years or 100 years. We need to protect it for future generations. Okay, so reflections then at the end of every strand. Okay, so that's strand 2. And strand 2 is called Global Citizenship. And what I want you to do at the end of every strand is to do an audio or type it up and just say, what is it you learned about global citizenship and the environment and sustainability? Okay. Again, if you have any questions, you can email john.mcgarry@stjosephsrush.com. If there's any confusion, always let me know. Okay, so added to global citizenship, we can also do a storyboard on local and global development. So what we could do is we could do a story about a family that's been suffering from poverty at home and maybe abroad, maybe in Africa, and highlight the differences and similarities between poor people in Africa and poor people in Ireland. You could do a video of your local area. Is a separate topic. So you video your streets in your local area, maybe using your phone, again with the permission of your parents. Highlight new places that have been developed and ask people why new places have been developed. I know there's a Tesco developed in Rush. So show the new developments, what new buildings, what new things have been set up in Rush, and then have a think about maybe why they were set up. And ask people why they were set up, and then record their answers on audio again, with their permission. Yeah, with the permission of your parents. Okay, so affecting global change. In addition, what you can do is create a profile of someone powerful in the world, someone like Donald Trump, the President of America, or someone like the leader of the United Nations or the EU or Ireland, Leo Varadkar at the moment. So draw a poster highlighting the problems with climate change. So obviously a huge part of global citizenship ties into sustainability. And we know that a problem down the line is climate change. If the planet heats up by more than 1.5 degrees, people will suffer the consequences, the top scientists are saying. So what can we do to help climate change? Well, again, it's reduce, reuse, recycle, and use less fossil fuels and create more renewable energy, such as wind turbines off the coast of Ireland. And biofuels. Okay, and then what you do is after you've tried a few of those, you don't have to do them all. And again, the time frames, there's no pressure on time frames. You just tip away at whatever you can get done within class time. Yeah, so whatever you can get done within class time is great. You can get a little bit done outside of class time using your audio recorders. That'll be great, and that'll add to it. And also watching the news, some positive stories in the news. RT News, use the RT News app. And for homework, what you'll be doing is doing your little bit of audio clips and doing your little bit of news, positive news stories on RT. Okay, now moving on, the last strand then, and again, CSP is done over 2 years, used to be over 3 years. So there's still 3 strands. And again, if you're struggling to get everything done, aim for a realistic target for yourself. So maybe half of the work there. If you can't get the full amount done, if you can get the full amount done, great. If you can't, try and get half it done. And again, you do it during class time. And you can do a little bit outside of class. And never do too much. You don't be doing more than maybe an hour a week on CSP class time, and no more than, say, 10 minutes every second night for homework, okay, and revision. So, explore democracy. Some ideas here of what you could do in the JSCP club. So, explain how democracy works in your school. So, do people get elected into power by vote? Or how do year heads get jobs? How do principals get jobs? Etc. Do a graphic. So that can be infographic, just means a picture or some diagram showing how Ireland is ruled. So who's at the top of the chain? Leo Varadkar, we know, is Taoiseach. Has he got anyone that he needs to consult with? Who are his subordinates? In other words, who are in government with him, and who's got the most power, the second most power, and then who's got power in a sequence, so one after the other. So you just do a basic diagram on who's in power in Ireland. And again, use googlescholar.com for that, or Wikipedia. So show a diagram showing how North Korea is ruled. So then have a look into Google to see how North Korea is ruled. You'll find out it's a dictator that rules it, that they don't have democracy, that they can't vote in their leader, that he's a leader because his dad was a leader. Maybe his dad took leadership by power, by force. Mention 5 things you know about the European Union. Okay, so just tap in again to Google Scholar, 5 things about the European Union. And reflect and discuss what you think is good or bad about democracy. Have that discussion with your SNA. Always get your supporting teacher there to help you with any problems you have with this. Get them to help as well, and include them. Ask them for advice. If you find that your supporting teacher doesn't understand or doesn't know what's expected from me as teacher, make sure, obviously, one of you let me know that so that we can help. Okay, so mention 5 things you know about the United Nations. So that's a big organization to help try and keep peace in the world. So write 5 things you know about it. And then list 5 things that you've learned and found interesting about Northern Ireland and the Troubles. Okay, so what's Northern Ireland? Who rules it? What troubles have there been in the past? Little things like that would be fine. Okay, and then we get on to a new section within strand 3. Again, there's 3 strands, there's different parts within each strand. And law is a big strand. You'll see I did videos up on law to make it easier for you, up on my website, and up on Schoology. And we also have our Google Drives as well, haven't we? So, number 1, reflect on why any laws are important and the ones you as a student have to follow. And then present this using Google Slides, or again, pictures or audio. But what you're trying to get at here is laws that are important for Ireland to function well. So, for example, it's a law that you can't rob things. Why is that a law? What would happen if there wasn't a law for that? It's just reflect and think about what the world would be like without laws. And number 2, know the difference between consumers, local laws, criminal law, civil law, EU and international law. So even if you did a line or two about each one, consumer law is to protect us when we're buying things. Local laws are to protect things like, say, for example, beaches. There's bylaws there on the beaches. You can't do scooters, noisy scooters, say, after a certain time at night time for obvious reasons, noisy for neighbours. Criminal law then is like the theft, murder. Civil laws like divorce and marriage and buying a house. EU and international law, we get laws from the European Union and we get laws from the international world that we have to abide by. Okay, so write up 2 points about each, find a picture about each which symbolises the organisation that looks after any aspect of law. The role of media in democracy then is the final thing that we look at. So part A, you could write down, or again use an audio, the pros and cons of freedom of the media, give examples, give 3 of each. So why is it good to have freedom of media? How can it get, say, some leaders in trouble when you've got freedom of press as well? Should it be monitored more? Should it be look at fake media on different social media apps? How could we regulate or monitor more to make sure we're getting the truth? I suppose the important thing, isn't it, when it comes to the media? The media means television, newspapers, social media. How do we get our news? So understand the difference between fake news and good news and give 3 examples of each. Okay, we just spoke about that. And listen and learn about the role of media in a social justice movement, a political election or referendum, a criminal investigation or an environmental movement. Okay, well, don't complicate that too much yourself. Just try and keep it simple there. And listen and learn about the role of media, say, in a political election. How did Donald Trump get elected? How did Leo Varadkar get elected? For example, Leo has a Twitter account. For example, Donald Trump, the current president of America, has a Twitter account. He uses social media. Barack Obama, they say that one of the main reasons he got into power was the use of social media. He had to get his message out there. So there's good and bad with social media, isn't there? Okay, but the truth is the important thing from that. We're getting experts and the truth from our media. That's what's important. So it's important to reflect again about each of these different sections and write down what you think, what are your opinions, and what have you learned. Okay, that wraps up priority learning units and actions for my JCSP students in CSPE. Thanks for listening. Keep safe. Bye-bye.